Welcome to another session of Creating a Healthy Work Environment after COVID-19. Today, I have the pleasure of having Ann Moron with us. Ann is based in Curaçao, so welcome, Curaçao. And she
Thank you.
is the owner, managing director of Psyworks, again, based in Curaçao. Ann, can you just give us a bit more information about what you do? And yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you so much for the pleasure of inviting me, Charlene. I'm Ann Moron. I'm actually what they call in Dutch a GZ-psycholoog, which is basically a health psychologist and a child psychologist, but I also work a lot with occupational questions. And I do that through my company, Psyworks NV.
Good. It's great to see you. I've known you for a while. And one of the things that actually brings us today, it's about managing stress, as a matter of fact. And when we talk about stress, then it came to mind. So I started asking myself, because you do hear a lot about I'm stressed or this is stressful. But then the question, that I would like to start with you and to get your insights from as a psychologist. When you look at the word stress in itself, right? How would you go about defining this?
Yeah, there are a lot of different types of stress, and I guess you're totally right. A lot of people are always saying like, "Oh, I'm stressed," and "Oh, I'm stressed because I didn't get the dress right," or "I'm stressed because my dog is, leaving the house or something." But there are people who really have stress, and basically, if you think about stress, you would think about the physical reaction that your body gives to a situation in which it makes you feel bad for some reason. It makes you feel nervous. It makes you feel worried. Um, and then we see stress often as that combination of having this worry or some preoccupation with some kind of a physical reaction to it. And some people may react more openly physically to it. Some people are not even aware that they are having a physical reaction, but we often do see this physical reaction in some way or another.
When you go about thinking about that, about physical reaction, um, so even though it's something internal, let's put it that way, right? It manifests
Mhm.
itself externally, so your body type. Does it also manifest itself in behaviors?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And think about, a lot of people use things in order to be able to manage that stress. So whether it is that, some people will go around it in a very healthy way and then, they might go and start doing a lot of sports or running or something. Some people don't manage it that well and they'll maybe recur to drinking or to using drugs or to maybe overeating as a way to manage that stress. And as I said, it's not always not, people are not always conscious that they're under stress and they are presenting these kind of behaviors without necessarily knowing what it is that's causing them.
So if I were to self-analyze or self-reflect, as an individual, what are some things that I can look for in terms of physical reaction or behaviors? What are some signs that I can look for? Say, you know what, maybe I am under stress or I'm struggling with certain things. So, what are some signs that I could make me go like, you know what, maybe I do have to attend to this?
I think, one of the things that we always ask when we're doing like an intake for the first time is the so-called physiological functions, which is sleeping, eating. How do you feel about waking up in the morning and starting your day off? Do you generally feel calm? Or are you feeling very anxious? Are you feeling butterflies in your stomach? Are you maybe not sleeping well? Are you possibly just, feeling very tense around your shoulders? Or are you maybe biting at night the whole time? So these are like very typical things that people might experience. Sometimes you feel other pains. Some people may have like muscular pains and they're not really aware why it is, because they're maybe not even aware that they're so tense that they're, just like walking around a little bit like that the whole day and not being aware of it, by which they feel all kinds of things in their bodies. Some people might have tummy troubles, some people might have like a light diarrhea, or on the contrary, they might be
Mm.
constipated. Um, some people may tell you like, oh, my eyes are always hurting, or my eyes are just always feeling very tired. Headaches. We have a type of headache which
Mm,
is like typical for stress, which are the tension headaches, and it's contrary to somebody maybe having a migraine or something, which is very much more physiologically induced, but is also it can also be induced by stress. A tension headache is often that headache that goes like around your whole head and down, through your shoulders and your neck.
mhm.
So
I'm smiling because you're talking. I'm like, maybe that's exactly what it is. Just like you
yeah,
define, like it's you feel it like all over here.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. That's that. Let me make a point of that for myself and for
yeah,
anyone that's paying attention, because you often wonder, it's how you react also in certain ways, and when it comes to a reaction towards others, um, how does it impact your behavior reaction towards other people?
yeah. Well, you've probably heard of people who get very snappy or who get angry quickly or who just like you hear that they overreact quickly and that kind of things. And it's often when they say, like in Dutch, for our Dutch speakers, they say in kort lontje, so a very short mash, you're short fused. Things that might normally, when you're feeling in a good position in which you're feeling calm and things, you can deal with it adequately. But when you're like very, feeling very stressed, it might just, make you burst. It might make you emotional. It might make you not want to see people. Um, so there's a whole different variety of actions that you might see
Mm,
people, who are feeling stressed, feeling. And obviously, in the most extreme cases, then you will see that people might, feel very angry, become aggressive, or become very sad and depressed.
mm,
Yeah,
mhm. It's definitely it's topic that, like we said at the beginning, a lot of people talk about it, but it has, or it can have, major consequences if it's not managed. Let's put it that way, as an
for sure,
individual, right?
for sure.
Okay.
And as I
So,
said earlier, especially if you're not aware of it, because some people are
mm.
just not aware of it.
So when you think about in that case, so the signs, what could be? I'm not sure if this is done. Just asking.
Mhm.
Could you? Is it possible when it comes to the causes of stress to classify them in terms of, yeah, these are the reasons why a person might end up in a stressful situation?
I think that's something very personal. So, I mean,
Okay.
we could
Mhm.
probably sit here all night talking about possible causes of stress. Obviously, there are certain things that, I think we really have to make a differentiation between what is normal stress, which is
Okay.
something, which is
Mhm.
transitory, which everybody feels at some point or another. Like, if you have 30 people coming over to eat at your house and you just found out that you forgot the main ingredient for whatever it was that you're cooking,
Mhm.
yes, you're going to feel stressed, but you know that it's something that you can probably solve. And, once you've solved it, it's okay again. But when you've been going or when you've been dealing with stress for a long time, and these are the most extreme cases. Like for example, people who, like now in this whole Corona period, people who've been at home and who've not been able to work, or people who are at home and are just terrified of being infected by the whole virus, or people who are under marital stress or some kind of strain, or they feel that they're not
Mhm.
functioning properly at work and things aren't going properly. This is a stress that builds up over a longer period of time. And especially people who've been like under a prolonged period of stress, you're going to see that they're going to start showing a lot more physiological reactions.
Mhm.
They'll start getting sick. They'll start calling in sick to work. They won't feel like acting or interacting with other people as they used to. Maybe the things that used to make them feel good about themselves or that made them, feel better whenever they were stressed are not interesting anymore. They become too hard for them to do.
Mhm.
So, a lot of times you see that kind of things. And basically, as I said, stress is something very personal. So, um, for one, it might be like, oh, I'm in danger of losing my job. Whereas for the other, it might be, oh, my dog peed on the carpet and, I didn't
Mhm.
want that. So it also has to do a lot with, how people are able to manage their stress. What is it that they have to be able to manage or to cope with that stress?
So when it comes to coping to stress as employers, as managers, leaders, business owners, and having that sense of responsibility towards your people. So one of the things that I say, for example, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, is that the moment that you step into the role of being a manager, a leader, a business owner, or a business manager, you're not only responsible for yourself. That would be the
No,
biggest
you're
change,
being
right?
actually very sadistic.
Yeah. You are being, you only have to take, you're responsible for yourself, you're responsible for your business, but you're also responsible for those people reporting to you under your leadership. So, having said that, as a leader manager, I would like to break it down in two ways. So, indeed, stressful situations for everyone, every single individual, at a personal level or professional level. But about those managers and leaders, okay, about taking care of themselves so they can take care of others. What suggestions do you have?
Well, as I say, I just made a joke about, being sadistic when you decide to become a manager or actually a business owner because there's so many responsibilities that come onto you. And I think it's important to, as I said earlier about the coping skills, I think you have to be a kind of special kind of person to be able to manage with that stress because as you know, as you business owners know, it's basically ongoing. You're 24/7, you're busy with your baby, which is your company, if everything is well. And, if you're a responsible leader or a person just taking that responsibility, probably the interest of your employees will probably it'll be weighing really hard on your shoulders. Um, so, it's really important to be able to take that time for yourself, to be able to just realize in what a special position you're in, and just grant yourself sometimes that little moment of, you know what, I'm just not going to care right now. Because a lot of times you're caring constantly. You're always thinking maybe 2, 3 steps ahead in order to be able to provide not only for the company to be doing well, for your employees to be doing well, but also for yourself. Because in the end, you want to have some kind of a profitable business. You want to be able to pay the bills at the end of the month. And it's not always possible. And that makes it sometimes hard that, you really want to do your best. And so, you know, my personal favorite tip would be just go and have a massage every now and then, but it's not always possible. But take some free time, do some sports, talk to somebody that you trust and
Mhm.
exchange ideas. Um, Maybe being a psychologist, I know a lot of people don't like doing this, but my number one tip is please cry it out. I mean, it just relieves you when you're able to cry a little bit
Mhm.
and just, sometimes it doesn't even have to be about something that's worrying you, but it can just be, oh my God, what a beautiful day. I just feel like crying, and it's just a way of releasing stress.
As an organization, um, first question would be, yes, it impacts persons on an individual level. How does this connect in terms of performance at work? So the connection
Oh,
between, the individual stress, but the impact that it has on their performance at work and the organization.
Oh, it's very apparent. And, it can range from, the occasional, may I leave a half an hour earlier because I have a headache, or, oh, I don't feel like it, or, oh, thank
Mhm.
God it's finally Friday, to, actually being on sick leave for an extended period of time, or just having a very poor performance, or being aggressive, or making careless mistakes.
Mhm.
And, again, as I said, some people are able to manage their stress pretty well. And even though, they might be going through an extremely stressful situation, some people use work as a way of releasing that stress, whereas other people would just fall into each other like if there was some kind of a plum pudding.
Mhm.
So I think it's for the employer, it's really important to be able to identify. I mean, know your employees, identify, might be showing some kinds of trouble. And I think if you know your people well, then you will probably also be able to know when the person who has normally functioned at a really good level all of a sudden is not doing so anymore.
Mhm.
or is showing some kind of stress. And it doesn't mean, you know what, I'm going to sit down with you and every single morning ask you about your whole family and private life and whatever, because sometimes it's not just, it's not just stress at work. Sometimes people bring their stress from home
Yeah.
into work,
Mhm.
and vice versa, obviously. Um, but it's good to every now and then just check and see, hey, how's it going? Are you
Yeah.
okay? Is there anything you want to tell me? Do you want to talk with somebody? Is there
Mhm.
anybody you would like to talk to? As
No,
a
and
way of,
it's as a way
yeah, as a
of
way of just releasing it. Yeah,
because when I think about when you are responsible for a group of people, um, I would say, and see, asking you if you see it the same way, it's about finding the balance in terms of working relationship, professional relationship, daily maintaining the personal contact, but not crossing the line. Okay, and
exactly.
that's a challenge in itself as well. Would you say?
It is a challenge, and it's challenging for both sides. I mean, it's challenging, as the employer in the sense that, you don't want to pry too much into people's lives, but you do
Hmm.
want to kind of know what's going on. You don't need to know the details, but you need to know more or less if somebody's maybe going through a difficult time, like for example, oh, my husband was just laid off, so now I'm the only breadwinner in the house, or oh, my mother is sick, so I have to be worrying about that, or I've lately I've been having migraines 3 times a week. How come? What's going on?
Hmm.
So whenever you do see certain signs, I think it's, really important to just actually go and have a conversation with your employee. A lot of times it's hard for the employee, especially if they're like, a lot of hierarchical lines. It's
Yeah.
very hard for the employee to come to you as the boss and, maybe tell them like, this is going on, especially if you don't have a very close relationship.
Hmm.
So I'm all for, it doesn't have to be like a super intimate relationship, but just make sure that there's that space, that person from both sides, that you feel that there's that space to be able to communicate with each other about, you know what, it's not just about the work that you're giving me, but I just want to make sure that you as a person are also okay.
Yeah. One of the things that always, well, always, yeah, always comes up when I am in coaching sessions, especially with managers and leaders, and even in training, it's like, okay, I do know of people who are struggling, but the
Hmm.
manager, leader, him or herself, to take that step to
It's hard.
approach the other person, it's difficult. And one of the
It
things that
is.
I keep hearing as to, when you ask, okay, why would this be difficult? Would be not sure if they're crossing a line. Not sure if it's too personal to ask a personal question. Not sure if they get an answer like don't get into my business, is not nothing of your concern type of answer. Um, which are understandable fears or feelings in terms of dealing or going to your employee and asking them, what can they do, not only to overcome that fear a little bit, but maybe open the doors or being more, that people come to you. How would you say, would be a good approach for managers and leaders that, they're finding the balance between going to them, but also for them to be aware that, what, I can go to, let's say, Shalane, for example.
Yeah. It's a really interesting question, actually, because it's not just in this kind of relationship. I see it in all kinds of
Mhm.
relationships. For some reason, people are just kind of like scared to ask tricky questions or, how am I going to ask this? And um, often what you do see is that the other party, I mean, you don't, it depends on how you're going to ask it, and where you're going to ask it. If
Mhm.
you're going to be asking a very personal question in front of all the other colleagues, then, that's obviously a no-no.
No. Mhm.
If you're going to be making a whole issue out of it, like, I need you to step in my office tomorrow at 9 o'clock because I need to speak to you about something important, you're creating tension. So I would say, try to find a moment in which you can be calm with the person, alone with the person, and just, ask out of interest, not because you have a script in your head like, oh, I need to ask this now because I noticed this. But, I don't think most people will mind you asking like, hey, hey, Sherlyn, are you okay today?
Mhm.
I noticed you're a little bit off. Is everything okay? Can I help you with something? And then obviously it's up to the other person to, how much they're going to disclose or not. Once things start getting out of hand and maybe that this person is not functioning properly, then, you can, as the boss, you can actually go and talk about results and about this is what I expect from you and I'm seeing this and,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything we can help you with? And I think the question of can I help you with something is very different than what's going on with you,
One of the
you know?
things that I always share with my people, and it's that part of building that trust level and working on the trust level with your employees, so they know that they trust you enough to come to you.
Yeah, and I think part of that, because that was the second part of your question, um, as much as possible, as is possible for you. I think an open door policy is always good, or in any case, just inform your employees, like, if you need me, these are the ways for you to contact me, even though maybe my door seems closed at that moment, it's because I'm working, but if you need me, I will be there for you. Please contact me in this way. You can send me an app, you can mail me, you can just, put a little letter in my mailbox, I don't know, but please feel free to come to me when you. And the one employee is not the other. So maybe with
Yeah.
the one employee, you have a better connection, and with the other, you're thinking like, oh, why is this person? Because maybe it's not even somebody that you hired, but maybe your boss hired, and you're this person's boss, and you have to deal with that. But even for that person, I think it's really important for you to check with yourself also. Why is this person triggering me? What makes me not feel good about talking to this person? And
Mm-hmm.
how can I, in my role as a manager, how can I make sure that I can create sufficient trust and sufficient safety around this person for us to have this conversation, and maybe for somebody else to have this conversation if I don't feel comfortable doing it,
Yeah.
you know?
So it's good to also know, from what I'm hearing, it's good to for you to know as a person, as a leader manager, it's your limitations as well, and to
For
get
sure.
assistance where you feel is assistance is needed.
For sure. Not
Mhm.
everybody feels comfortable having these conversations. And I mean, if
No.
you're one of them, it's okay. You're not weird because you're one of them or something. I think most people find it a little bit hard because, yeah, as you said earlier, I don't know how the other person's going to react. I don't know if the other person actually appreciates me asking them.
Hmm.
So maybe just find a colleague who is closer to this colleague who, maybe you can instruct like, hey, I'm seeing this. Can you maybe just find out? Um, but somebody who's safe and somebody who's going to take responsibility for this other client or colleague who's not feeling well.
Hmm.
And obviously, confidentiality. I think that that's number one, and that's where a lot of times things go wrong. That, it's like, I just had this really hard conversation with my colleague, and then, the next colleague walks in, and I'm like, oh, you know what? So and so just told me, ah, la 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 la. It,
And then it really comes to in having those, yeah, skills as a manager and leader to know how to not only manage yourself but also manage difficult situations. When you think about the different stressful situations or things that can cause stress, obviously COVID-19 is a big stressor.
for
In
sure.
that case, have you seen in the work that you do, um, any additional stress that COVID-19 has brought on?
Obviously we have a big group who is unemployed right now because of the whole COVID
Yeah.
thing. And so, we have that stress also, like how am I going to make ends meet? Is there going to be a future? If there's not going to be a future, what am I going to do to be able to, reinvent myself and get a job anyways? Um, so I would say those are like the main two things that I'm seeing. And what you do have, like, it was kind of a crazy paradox because we, as
Mm.
as health employees, we actually expected to have a lot of people dealing with like violence inside the home. And for some reason, during the COVID, that wasn't as much the case as it started after the whole lockdown.
Ah,
So I think people were kind of like holding in because they know, like, oh, we're stuck in here for some time. And then afterwards, it was like, okay, now I can finally vent it out. Um, but also, there are a few COVID divorces going on, for example,
Mm-hmm.
a few COVID breakups. And I think it's the fact of, having to be locked up with somebody who maybe a few years ago you thought it was your dream person, and then all of a sudden you realize, like, no, I can't live with this person anymore.
Then, if we had this like restrictions and then we're released in a way, and
Yeah.
then again being restricted, it deals a lot with our emotions.
It does. And, I really have to think now you're talking about this. There's an author, Eric Fromm, that wrote about the fear of, um, I don't remember right now, but the fear of freedom.
Mm.
And, there's so many things that we're just like used to doing in a certain way. So you have a certain routine and you just kind of like assume, and that's like the fallacy that we as humans need to have, because otherwise, you're going to be confronted with the fact that you're mortal. But yeah, I'm going to school tomorrow, so I'm going to school tomorrow. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's what I assume. I'm not thinking like, oh, you know what? I'm not sure if I'm able to go to school tomorrow because maybe I can die tonight, or maybe a bomb can fall in the school, or maybe there's an earthquake and something happens. I mean, most people don't think that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this whole COVID thing has made a lot of people just really realize how vulnerable we can be. And, we were lucky enough to have all of these resources that you can still work. A lot of people were able to work because there's all of these online resources. If this thing had hit 30 years ago, we really, really, really would have had a problem.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
I think
also
that
that part
sounds.
of connectivity. Yeah,
Yeah, internet. I'm like every day I'm going to go like, thank
yeah,
you so much.
I know.
Marianne, we're coming to the end of our session for today, but I do want to ask you if there's one main message that you can give as a takeaway to everyone that's watching right now, individuals and businesses, what would you like to say to them?
I think take care of yourself by realizing that, you're the most important person who is able to make sure that you're going to be okay. So do whatever you need to be able to stay okay. If you're feeling stressed, get help. If you're not able to solve the situation, get somebody to help you solve the situation. But take it seriously, because there's a reason. Stress is nothing else than just a signal of your body saying, "Hey, I'm here, help me."
Good. Thank you so much. And again,
You're
great to see
welcome.
you. And
Same here, and thanks for the invitation.
thank you for your time. And I would like
You're
to
welcome.
again say thank you and wish you all the best. And all the best to
You
you
too.
and your loved ones. And take care of yourself.
You too. And keep healthy, and, glad to see you here again.
Same thing. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.